Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. You guys know what time it is. Time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And a number of people have linked me a new video by Jeremy Ethier discussing the 3 dumbbell exercises that he thinks you need for complete shoulder development. And Jeremy's one of those guys that he means well. I don't dislike him in any way, but his channel's growing massively and he's still a very young, very inexperienced guy in the strength and conditioning world. And he still has a lot to learn. And so by making some of these videos when I do my regular current events and we get informative and we correct some of the stuff, we help maybe some of his followers who come across this understand that some of this information really isn't practical in the real world, not necessarily the most effective way to go about things. So let me go ahead and put on my +5 hat of Speechcraft and let's talk about this. All right, up front, one of the things that he flat said incorrectly up front is that dumbbells can help with muscle balance left or right. They can't. That is an enormous myth. It's not based on the way human biomechanics work. And here's what I'm going to say about it flat out. Anyone whose technique and form is going to cause a unilateral imbalance, meaning left to right in their body, dumbbells are going to exacerbate it. In other words, if the bad form that you use with a barbell, if you use dumbbells, it's going to be even worse. Because of the instability involved, the bad form that causes that left to right imbalance will be much, much worse with a dumbbell. So it will actually make it worse. It's just simply not true. I've done a lot of videos covering that in the past as to why that is. And I'm not opposed to dumbbell exercises. I program them for clients. I have clients on dumbbell exercises right now, even for strength building purposes. But they're always going to play a minor role. So let's get over and talk about kind of the 3 exercises he talked about and correct this a little bit. Because first of all, he's like, well, standing dumbbell press or versus seated dumbbell press. All right, the problem we get to should be obvious here. If the only reason to do this is left to right imbalances, and there aren't really any left to right imbalances with a barbell, there's no point using the dumbbells. He created problems that don't need to exist in regard to that. And furthermore, he's only doing half reps. With a barbell, it's very easy to come down, touch your chest, elbows in front of you where they're supposed to be, because again, he talked about elbow flare, and press up and drive over your head, right? That's what you do on a standing barbell press. It's the easiest way to do it. It's extremely effective. It works. And if you look at the same data that he produced, there's some major benefits to the standing barbell press over the dumbbells in terms of things like rear delt activation, tricep activation, all this stuff, right? So it's kind of silly to do it with dumbbells other than as an exercise variation that you rotate in from time to time to avoid injuries. Because we can get overuse injuries. But the majority of people listening to Jeremy are going to be novice lifters. They just need to do this with a barbell. And a couple of the problems I had with the way that he broke it down, he tried to pretend like there was a real benefit to the seated ones versus the standing, when the reality is if you watch him do them, his seated presses were a really high angle incline. And what I mean by that is that even though he said, yeah, don't let your pelvis roll forward and you want to, keep your lower back up against the bench, the problem is that the bench already prevents you. If you're against the bench at all, you are losing a lot of the shoulder girdle activation, right? You're losing a lot of the side delt, you're losing a lot of the rear delt, you're losing a lot of that because the dumbbells are still in front of your face. The dumbbells have to be behind your head. In order to do that, you have to lean forward. So even if your upper back is up against that pad, which is not even an upright, he's on an incline bench set to the highest angle, that's still not upright. In fact, you would want it to be leaned forward slightly, not even up and down, so that it would push you forward this way, ideally, at least for the top half. But at the bottom of any press, this is one of the benefits of a standing press, and particularly with the barbell, we can lay back so that we get upper chest involvement, and then because your torso can be more mobile while you're standing, you can get more side and rear delt activation as you go up, because as the bar passes your head, you can drive your body forward so that you get the weight behind your head a little bit. And that produces a much, much more powerful effect for your whole shoulder girdle. Okay, so that makes it a superior exercise. And part of his thing was like, well, you'll be limited to really light weights because you can only clean so much weight up. Well, we come over to that point of, if you're coaching a bunch of upper body bros and you've got a problem already, if you're telling me that you've got lifters who are training their squats and their deadlifts and their hip hinges and all this other stuff, if they are training their lower body and core, they should not have any trouble whatsoever cleaning even their 1 rep max dumbbells up. Okay, even the dumbbells that they can only lift for the heaviest rep possible, they should be able to clean that into position. Furthermore, if we come back over to the point of doing full range of motion, because you shouldn't be like this, that's a half rep, we're losing benefits. Full range of motion with the dumbbells requires you to turn it and be right here. You start with the dumbbell sitting on your shoulders, and then you drive up. You don't have to clean it up to here. That's actually the incorrect exercise. You're reducing range of motion. And people say, well, I do that so I don't hurt myself. Well, it's not going to rotate out to the side if you're turned in correctly. Right? We eliminate this problem. This is a non-issue. It shouldn't even exist as a problem. So again, not buying it. The next thing we come to is the side laterals. Not a problem there. In fact, I would go so far as to say that for most of you, it's very hard to work the side delts completely off of our big movements, right? Our pulling, our pressing, all of that. Whereas in the front delt and the rear delt are not that big of an issue. Quite frankly, you can build maximum anterior and posterior deltoid without touching a single small exercise. It's just not necessary. It isn't necessary at all. And in some cases might be counterproductive. Side delts can be the exception, right? They can be the exception. So, I mean, lateral raises for people who want a big, thick shoulder girdle might be a requirement. I do them. I do them with chains, though. And one of the things you guys notice, chains are fine because, again, we talk about, as he noted, that the side delt doesn't kick into you at least 30 degrees. My chains take care of that. But the thing that we need to look at is that I felt like he was still doing too much with the pinky too far up. If you come over and look at it, the further the pinky is up, the higher your risk of crushing your glenoid in your shoulder, and that can cause injuries over time. So the bodybuilder way of doing it is really stupid. It hurts people. There's a reason it causes the burn, bro. It's actual structural damage, not muscle damage. So the whole point there is that I would tell the people, look, you need to keep the thumbs up. Now, whether you're going to do them one arm, two arm, whatever you do, you need to lean forward so that you can keep the thumb up to avoid the rotation that will crush the glenoid in your shoulder joint, right? But if you want to activate the side and rear delt better and get the front delt out of it, the forward lean will facilitate that, right? And that's what you want to do. That's your ideal. That's your ideal scenario. Now, the next thing he brought up was the rows, and I like the fact that he used a row for rear delts. I think people trying to isolate rear delts is silly. They're not designed to use in isolation. They don't work correctly in isolation. We need multi-joint exercises to really facilitate all their functions, and you get other fringe benefits. In other words, if you do face pulls for your rear delts, you're getting rotator cuff work, right? You're getting rotator cuff work. There are benefits to it beyond just the rear delt. It's a multi-use exercise. Rows can work also, but here's what it comes down to. If you're not going to add face pulls or other smaller movements, you're going to do rows, you need enough workload and volume. But the thing is, he's basically like, well, just use the dumbbell and just move it in this direction. Look, you're making it an inferior exercise. You don't need to focus on these silly twists. And it's like you look at guys like Jeremy, and he's still lacking his overall size and thickness, and it's because he's focused too much on these little silly twists and squeezes. Reality. I do chest supported rows. That handles all my rear delt work right now. I do 20 sets of them every week. All right, but here's the thing. Whether you're going to do a row like that with a barbell, whether you're going to do it chest supported, whether you're going to do a pin lay row, if you want more rear delt and more upper back in general, you can take a slightly wider grip and bring the bar to your upper chest. Like on mine, you can't always see it from that angle, but I bring it to my upper chest. I've got a slightly wider grip. If I'm trying to work more of my lower back and lats, and for better pure deadlift carryover, I'll do them standing, but with my thumbs on the smooth, just like a close grip bench press, right? And then we pull to the lower chest like this. But if you're trying to work more upper back, again, you might need that for your bench press. That's why I do it. Elbows out, pull to the upper chest like this with it. That is a extremely potent rear delt builder, and it gives you the benefit of working all that upper back musculature, your mid traps, rhomboids, all of those things get hammered, in addition to it still being a pretty good lat exercise, pretty good grip exercise on top of it. So there's your solution, guys. That's your solution to doing that. You don't need to use these silly twists and squeezes, because what he's done is that he's made this row less effective because he got so caught up in, oh, we need to do dumbbells for these, instead of just realizing that you're just doing an ineffective, less effective version of the row in an effort to try to work the rear delt more, when that could be changed with nothing more than a change in bar path on the barbell, right? And already a normal barbell row actually works your rear delts pretty damn hard based upon the EMG data, which is what he seems to like to cite. But again, we could do them that other way, and then we bring it into a far more upper back dominant exercise. And again, when we're working upper back with the pull more, it's going to tend to facilitate more rear delt anyways, because that's the area of the back we're putting more work into. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.